Episode 6. King Robert reappoints Ned as Hand as well as delegates the responsibility of managing matters until Robert comes back from hunting. Riverrun villagers arrive with reports of atrocities committed by raiders guided by Ser Gregor Clegane, a Lannister retainer. Ser Gregor is sentenced to death, and Tywin Lannister is put on trial. Ned decides to return Sansa, who is now at peace with Joffrey, as well as Arya to Winterfell. Joffrey but also his two siblings aren't Robert's biological kids but were legally adopted by Jaime Lannister, according to Ned. Bran is threatened by rogue wildlings while checking his new saddle. Robb, Ned's oldest child, and Theon, Ned's slave ward whose dad, King Balon, was indeed a crumbled rebel, liberate him, and Osha, the woman wildling, is enslaved. Tyrion demands a combat trial in the Vale. Lisa selects Ser Vardis to be her champion. Bronn, a sellsword, volunteers to be Tyrion's champion. He demolishes Vardis and secures Tyrion's freedom. Meanwhile, Viserys becomes impatient and enraged while going to wait for Drogo to keep his promise, and he tried to murder Daenerys' unborn child. Viserys is killed by Drogo melting down gold on his face. In Episode 7. Ned confronts Cersei in King's Landing. He knows Jaime legally adopted her kids and will notify King Robert. Robert is critically injured while hunting boar before he can. As he dies, Robert Obvious signs a declaration going to name Ned caretaker of the realm till Robert's heir can take the throne. Ned changes the language to express the king's legitimate heir. Ned communicates with Stannis, Robert's brother and the legal future king. Peter Baelish is asked by Ned to secure the loyalty of the City Watch. Ned needs to confront Cersei and Joffrey in the royal palace after Robert's death, at which Baelish and the City Watch deceive him and attack his men. Benjen Stark vanishes at the Wall throughout a venture up north. Jon and Sam are appointed stewards, with Jon serving as Lord Protector Jeor Mormont's private servant. Jon is disappointed that he was not selected as a ranger till Sam suggests that Commanding Officer Mormont is likely grooming him for command. The stewards swear allegiance to the Night's Watch. Ser Jorah exposes King Robert's recruited assassin in Essos before he could even poison Daenerys. Drogo swears to overcome the kingdoms for the sake of his son and begins marching toward Westeros. In Episode 8. Arya flees the Red Tryon Keep after her Braavosian blade master, Syrio Forel, repels the security guard sent to apprehend her, whereas Sansa is apprehended. When Robb learns of the news, he mobilizes the northern forces to attack the Lannisters, having left Bran to rule Winterfell. Catelyn tends to leave to join Robb's tent after Lisa refuses to battle the Lannisters. Shagga, the Stonecrows tribe's leader, surrounds Tyrion and Bronn. Tyrion persuades them to accompany him to his father, Tywin Lannister, who might compensate them. Tywin requests Shagga to assist them in confronting the Starks in return for even more money. Some White Walker-affected bodies have been discovered at the Wall. One of them transforms into a white and targets Commander Mormont, and yet Jon kills it. Drogo's soldiers launch attacks on neighboring areas, enslaving locals and selling them to raise funds to purchase boats to traverse the narrow sea. Drogo is injured during a fight. Joffrey appoints Tywin, his grandfather, as Hand of the King. Sansa pleads with Joffrey to have mercy on Ned. Joffrey appears to agree if Ned publicly acknowledges Joffrey's right to the title and admits treason. In Episode 9. The Stark troops arrive at the twins' castle, and Catelyn convinces Sir Walder Frey to let them pass via his land and help them in return for Robb and Arya going to marry two of Frey's numerous unappealing children in the future. Just at Wall, Jeor Mormont thanks Jon by giving him his family's Valyrian steel sword. Maester Aemon uncovers to Jon that Aemon is indeed a Targaryen. Drogo's wound becomes infected in Essos, and his death is imminent. Daenerys enlists the help of a mysterious slave woman of using magic powers to save him. Everyone is told to stay outside of the tent until the enchantment is cast. When Daenerys goes into labor, Jorah helps bring her into the tent to seek help. As a diversion, Robb gives up 2,000 combat troops in the Lannister army, allowing him to keep moving his armed force and capture Jaime. Ned admits to treachery and publicly declares Joffrey to be the rightful heir in a public hearing. However, instead of sparing his life as agreed, the revenge and progressively insane Joffrey has somebody to be beheaded despite Sansa, Cersei, as well as other counselors' futile protests. While Arya is close in the crowd, Sansa is required to witness her father die. Last episode of Season 1. The North declares Robb king after seceding from the Seven Kingdoms. Tywin gets to appoint Tyrion as acting king's hand, whilst also Tywin combats to defend Joffrey's reign, with Jaime as the Starks convict and Robert's brothers, Stannis and Renly, every demanding Joffrey's right to the title. Jon considers leaving the Night's Watch to take revenge, Ned as well as join Robb, and yet his Night's Watch boys persuade him to keep his oath. Jon decides to join an expedition beyond the Wall in search of Benjen Stark. Yoren, a Night's Watch career coach, tried to smuggle Arya out of King's Landing concealed as a boy, while Joffrey plans to crown Sansa as his queen despite her father's execution. Daenerys' baby is born disfigured and dead, and the witch's devious magic renders Drogo vegetative. Daenerys mercifully ends Drogo's life. She throws the 3 dragon eggs onto Drogo's grave and sets it on fire, killing the witch in the process. Daenerys is discovered unharmed in the ashes, bordered by baby dragons.